Hello and welcome to This Week in East Brunswick, the Township's own news and information program. Today we'll begin with a look at porcelain artist Pauline Adams, who displayed her craft last weekend at the East Brunswick Public Library. Next, it's over to Frost Elementary School, where last Thursday, Space Shuttle astronaut Hart stopped in for a talk with the 5th and 6th graders. And of course, we'll have our regular features, including something new, gardening hints from County Agricultural Agent Pegi Ballister Howells. We'll have Consumer Aware with Adrian Eisner's tips on work-at-home schemes. And we'll finish up with our weekly Township Council review. But first, here's a look at what's on Channel 8 next week. Monday at 10 a.m., it's Look Great, Feel Great with Lenore Kulik and exercising for conditioning through soccer with Olympic soccer coach Len Reutman. At 10:30 a.m., it's Target with Paula Duran. Tuesday at 7 p.m., it's In Print, produced by the Beverly Hills Library. And at 7:30, Ken Shalhoub with Let's Talk Health and his guest from the Traeger Approach to Bodywork. And at 8 o'clock, it's You and Your Money with host Paul Hansen and information on the business applications of life insurance. Wednesday at 3 p.m., Stories for the Kids from the library. And at 7:30 p.m., Dr. Joseph Sweeney hosts another edition of Spotlight on Education. The topic is Mapping American History with Robert Flood. And we'll be back next Thursday evening at 7 and 8 with an all-new edition of This Week in East Brunswick. Be sure to check Channel 8's program guides for repeats of all these programs. Last weekend, artist-in-residence at the library, Pauline Adams, explained her interest in porcelain and showed how she works with this fine white clay.
I'm making candlesticks right now. I'm going to make a rose candlestick out of porcelain clay. This is called pottery, but it's pottery with a difference. It's hand building. Instead of throwing on the wheel, I'm going to form my pieces out of clay by hand. Now I've started this so that I can do it quickly. I started in pottery 6 years ago. I had retired from being a merchandiser and saw an ad in the paper offering lessons at Thompson Park Pottery Barn. It's affiliated with the Monmouth Park park system. I was very interested in it because at the time the only hobby I had was raising orchids in a greenhouse. And I thought it would be very interesting to make fancy pots for my orchids. Needless to say, I've gotten so involved with porcelain that my orchids no longer have fancy pots. Right now, I'm putting some preformed pieces on here that represent leaves. And I made them ahead of time, but I will show you how I did it. It's the porcelain clay. Took a small piece off, roll it. It's quite damp so that it can be moved and pressed. And as you see, I'm using the 2 fingers on each hand, and I'm pressing it so that I have a ridge down the center, which will represent a vein in the leaf. And as my fingers go down, they put more little ridges on the side, and it looks like veins coming out on the side. So it represents a leaf. It's not realistic, but my work is all impressionistic. And now I'm going to adhere it to this part was formed on a broomstick handle just by taking the clay and pressing it down like this all the way down until I made it, pinched it all off, and then released it. Broom handle is a very nice size because the clay, when it's dried, will shrink a certain amount, and then each time it's fired will continue to shrink. And by the time I've finished firing these candlesticks 3 times, the candle holder part of it will be the right size to hold a standard candle. When this dries, just like this, it will go into the kiln and it will have a bisque firing. That's the first firing. Before I do that, I am going to color it. The leaves will be a light green and the petals will be a pink. And I use an underglaze for that. And after that's very dry, it will go in the kiln for the bisque firing, which will be about 1300 degrees. And after that firing, now you notice I'm going to use more slip. After that firing, the pieces will be hard enough, will have enough water taken out of them that I can dip them into the liquid glaze. I could also paint them, but I prefer to dip them because you get a more even coating of glaze on them. Then they will be fired again at about 2300 degrees, cone 6, which is considered a high firing. And then after that firing, I will put overglazes. I like to use metallic glazes, mother of pearl. It gives it a very soft, luminescent look to it. I do a lot of things in shells and sea creatures and corals, and I like to think that if you were scuba diving and you saw them on a shelf, that it would look just like coral to you.
Now let's join astronaut Terry Hart at Frost Elementary School.
I'd like to talk a little bit about what's happened. This last year, as you're all aware, has been tragic for NASA. But really, if you look back in the space program, about the time I was your age, we were just getting started in this business of space, trying to launch men. And we had a terrible time when we first started. And all of our rockets were lifting up and right back down again and crashing. There weren't any people in it yet. We were just trying to learn how to get anything in space. We hadn't even put a satellite up yet. And the Russians were doing very well. They had a couple early successes, and they were launching, some of you may have heard of Sputnik, their first satellite. And then they launched a dog. They had a dog in space to see how they would do. And they were doing everything right, but we couldn't get anything going. You know, a lot of people in this country got really upset about that, and they decided that we had to make a very serious effort to get into space. And they formed NASA about that time. And we started launching men in about 1961 or so, and slowly the program started to come alive, and we started to have successes. And people were getting to feel like we should continue with the space program and perhaps do something very dramatic. And that something very dramatic was what President Kennedy back in 1961 announced to the world. You have to remember, we had all this trouble getting started, all the rockets blowing up. And the President of the United States told the whole world that we're going to go to the moon, and we're going to bring a man to the moon and bring it back safely before the end of the 1960s. That was 1961 when he made that announcement. A lot of people thought that, this is really crazy. We can't do this. It's much too hard. But what's good about our nation is when we have a challenge like this, and this is really true of all of us, when we're challenged to do something, there's something very difficult before us, so we really apply ourselves. It's really amazing what we can do, and sure enough, we ended up sending out 1 to 12 men to the moon. But en route to doing all that, the program got better and better in the early 60s. But in 1967, this is the very first moon capsule was being tested on a launch pad, the Apollo 1. We had terrible fire, and 3 of the astronauts were killed in just a matter of seconds in that spacecraft. And when that happened, the country was really upset, as they were when the Challenger blew up. And a lot of people thought, well, maybe we shouldn't do this, it's too hard. Maybe we shouldn't be trying to go into space, it's too dangerous. But after a while, people thought this is the right thing to do. We're all explorers. We want to go out and find out about these new things. So NASA had to start all over again, really, to redesign that whole Apollo spacecraft. They didn't know what caused the fire. They couldn't figure it out because everything was so badly burned. But they did it, and the program was successful. And then the shuttle came along. There was a lot of years in between those two, almost 10 years. And we had some very good successes early on in the program. The first few launches and all were very dramatic, and the nation kind of got invigorated once again. But then we had, I guess a period there where people were kind of getting a little bored about space. Shortly after my mission, mine was a little dramatic, as you'll see in the movie, because we did the first satellite repair in space. We went up and fixed the satellite. Took one up there, but we fixed one that was up there already. And that was very, very dramatic. I think you'll enjoy seeing it in the movie. But after that, the mission seemed to get a little bit boring, and people kind of lost interest, which is all right, because what you want is to have routine access to space, is what NASA calls it. You want to have a lot of people going back and forth, and people of all different walks of life flying. But then we had the tragedy, of course, last year. It upset a lot of people. And again, some folks thought maybe we shouldn't be doing this. It's too dangerous and all. The school teachers on the shuttle was just much more dramatic. A lot of people think twice about whether we should be doing this with civilians. But one of the good things about our country is when something like this happens, we learn a lot from it. A lot of countries around the world will try to cover up their problems, try to hide them from the rest of the world. When we have any kind of problem, whether it be in the space program or wherever, that got me too. When we have a problem in the space program or anything in our society, we bring it all out in the open. We try to find out what caused the problem so we can fix it, and we're better off for that in the long run. And that's one of the great great strengths of our nation. And I think years from now, we look back on this time, just like when we look back on the time that the Apollo capsule burned, we'll find that it's a time where NASA and the rest of the nation really learned a lot more about what we're doing. We'll be better off for it in the long run. At least I hope so, and I think the families of the dive challengers feel the same way. They really hope that the program will be better. We'll get the shuttle flying again. It'll probably be over another year. And NASA's official launch date is like next February, but it's probably going to be more like the following summer before we get flying again. Because there were so many problems they found that kind of been working in the background that they had to fix. And they've all been pretty well addressed now, and we'll get the shuttle flying again. And when we do get it flying again, one of the first things we're going to do with it is use it to build a space station. That'll be in the 1990s. Now, the space station is going to be interesting because the shuttle will carry people back and forth, and a typical astronaut might stay out there for 2 or 3 months even at a time, manufacturing things in weightlessness, studying the Earth, studying the stars, and all from space. It'll be very exciting. And what might be more exciting is that space station is going to be the place where we're going to leave to go back to the moon someday. We'll probably go back and permanently settle the moon with scientists living there and exploring the moon all the time. And then we'll go to Mars someday. How many would like to go to Mars? Almost everybody. How long do you think it would take to go to Mars? It'd take almost a year to get there. Yeah. Of course, Mars and the Earth go around together, and they're not always right next to each other when they're going around the sun, so you have to wait till they're close again before you come back. So you figure you might have to stay there about a year. Then you have to take another year to come back, so it's about a 3-year mission. Would you still want to go? Yeah. 3 years? I think it'd be fun. I think the people that go are going to really enjoy it.
Alcoholics Anonymous, may I help you?
All right. If you don't want to drink anymore, you don't have to. You just got to do something about it. Okay? There's a beginner's meeting, and you ought to go to the beginner's meeting at 7:30.
Let's see what we got in we got the workshop at 12:15 on Perry Street. That's right around the corner. Give yourself a chance to wash your face and have a cup of coffee and get
You
there.
don't want your husband to know? Don't you think he knows you drink?
I know exactly how you feel. So many times I can't count them.
We don't care if you're drunk when you go to a meeting. What we do care about is we see you there.
What makes you think they're tired of you? Well, they probably aren't tired of you. I'm a fellow alcoholic, and I certainly wouldn't be tired of you.
Could you give me your phone, and would you mind? I could get somebody maybe to call you and meet you there. We have several kinds of meetings, but let me see what kind you go to tonight, and then I...
Alcoholics Anonymous.
What's going to happen.
It works.
You could go to what's
Look us up in the phone book.
This is Pegi Ballister Howells, Middlesex County Agricultural Agent, and we're here in my garden in New Brunswick on Livingston Avenue. So we have to compete a little bit with the traffic, but you too can have a beautiful garden even if you're in an urban environment. Behind me I have some beautiful early blooming tulips called Red Emperor tulips, and in front of me are daffodils. Now this is really an early spring display. In another 3 or 4 weeks this garden will have no more daffodils and will be full of tulips. This particular variety here is called Pink Fantasy, and it has a slight pinkish color to the center cup. We also have some unusual varieties of daffodils in the front here, which is called Limerick daffodil with a very tiny center cup. The whole garden has probably about 15 or 20 different varieties of daffodils, but besides daffodils, we have some other unusual things that are about to bloom. In the center towards the back, we have a Crown Imperial, which is a very unusual kind of spring flowering bulb that comes in yellow and also orange. It's in bud right now, but should be blooming in about another 2 or 3 weeks. There's a couple of things that you really have to be aware of when growing daffodils and tulips as well as other spring flowering bulbs. It's very important to leave the leaves growing on the plant. Just because the flowers die, it's important not to remove the leaves. The leaves are green, and it's the green part of the plant that nourishes the bulb for next year. So even though they may look ugly while they're fading and dying back, it's important to leave them, unless you want to completely dig them up and replant them next year. Besides the leaves, another very important thing to take into consideration is the fact that every flower will try and form a seed. The seeds and the development of seeds takes a lot of energy from the plant. You don't want to allow the plant to form seeds because it weakens the plant, and again, you may not get a bloom next year. With tulips, you have to snap them off, as that center part after the flower fades will become a seed. With daffodils, right behind where the flower is a bulbous part of the plant, and that too has to be removed as the flowers fade. This garden, while it's right now in bloom for spring, is planted with perennials and later blooming bulb-type plants, and will be in bloom from now probably into early November. So we'll see you next time here in the garden. This is Peggy Ballister Howells, Middlesex County Agricultural Agent.
What do you think Alcoholics Anonymous is?
The place to go when you're thirsty.
I don't know. For drinkers, I guess.
I would sit and I would drink and I would think about doing a lot of things.
Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men
and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism.
And then I would have a third martini and I'd end up going to bed.
Right. If you don't want to drink anymore, you don't have to. You just got to do something about it.
The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions.
AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes.
Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Alcoholics Anonymous, it works. Look us up in the phone book.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrienne Eisner, Director of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. For one reason or another, many people cannot go out to work and therefore look for employment in their own homes. However, you should be very cautious about advertisements promising that you can earn large amounts of money while working in your home. Many people who want to work at home find that they will have to spend money before they get a chance to make any. One typical scheme requires that you send $10 or a similar amount of money for some type of kit or information packet to enable you to address envelopes in your home. When the kit arrives, you are instructed to take an ad out in a local newspaper. Your ad promises that people can earn money while working at home and instructs them to send you $10 for this basic information kit. Another work-at-home scheme requests that you purchase certain machinery or materials to make handmade articles. The amount of work you can actually complete rarely matches the company's promise of the income you will make. Often, many of the articles that you do send in will be rejected because of the quality of the workmanship. You can end up paying more for the materials or equipment than you could ever hope to make as return income. In fact, the company makes its money by selling you something and not by selling your products. If you are considering any kind of work-at-home business, investigate before you send any money. Make sure you get all promises in writing. Find out the exact nature of the work involved, your chances of success with the business, how much money you will have to invest, how many other people will be selling the same product in your area, the quality and quantity of the products you'll be selling, and any training or assistance that you are to receive. If you have any questions or have any further information that you are seeking, please contact us at the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. We are located in the municipal building. We are there from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. The telephone number is 390-6954. Thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware. See you again next time.
East Brunswick may have to pay an unexpected $1.2 million when the New Jersey Turnpike expands. Councilman Louis Becker revealed this expense at Wednesday night's council action meeting. The unpredicted cost will be for moving water utilities affected by the Turnpike's proposed expansion. This surprising expense came to the mayor and council's attention about 45 days after an agreement on the expansion was reached. At the same time, the statute of limitations on the contract expired. Mayor William Fox said Becker's premature announcement of the situation will severely hinder any attempt to negotiate the expense. Councilman Jack Sinagra agreed with Fox and called Becker's statement self-serving and irresponsible. Becker said he would not participate in what he called a conspiracy between the New Jersey Turnpike Authority and the governing body. Also at Wednesday night's meeting, Gene Price and Jack Cunningham of the Water Advisory Commission outlined the township's short and long-term water needs. The representatives told the council of the town's four-stage plan. In Phase 1, over $1 million will be expended for a 12-inch water main along Old Bridge Turnpike. Phase 2 will cost over $3 million to complete, includes water hookups along the New Riders Lane and from Ticey's to Cranberry Road. This is scheduled for completion in 1990. By 1995, nearly $4 million additional dollars will be set aside for Phase 3 of the water improvements, and in the year 2000, $580,000 will be spent to complete the job. As part of Phase 1, the township agreed to supply water to Helmetta from a proposed main that will run down Cranberry Road from Dunham's Corner Road. Helmetta will pay for this improvement as well as a fee for all water used. This was ready for approval Wednesday night, but was tabled after a motion was made by Councilman Louis Becker. Becker wants the agreement to hold Helmetta liable for any capital improvements to the line. Mayor Fox said the plan could be up for approval again at the next council action meeting, providing Helmetta conforms to Becker's recommendation. In other business, County Planner William Van Ness presented plans for fire training facility that will be built in Sayreville. East Brunswick firefighters will have access to the county facility. Whether East Brunswick should go ahead with plans for a municipal training center was questioned. Bill Peck, a District 2 fire commissioner, said the town still needs its own facility. If approved, the town's training center would be located off Edgeboro Road near the landfill. That's all for this week. Thanks for watching.